Hello, kapatid. How are you? Testing, testing. Kayo dyan. Good night. Walang trabaho dito. Labor Day kasi sa amin dito sa US. So, bali mag-ano ako ngayon, mag-silent after silent live stream. So, good night po sa inyo. Good night. Good night. Good night sa lahat. Hello, Mark, Jude. Kain tayo ng mangga. Thank you for dropping by. Testing lang po. Testing lang. Ano na dito, late na eh. 1:04 na ng hating gabi. Wala kasing mga trabaho eh. Kasi Labor Day ngayon dito. Kamusta po kayo? Kamusta dyan sa Cebu? Kamusta lahat dyan? Kamusta lahat dyan? Kamusta lahat dyan? Wala sa Pilipinas. Hindi nga. Testing, ito eh. First live stream ko ito eh. Tinestingan lang. diyang Minggo ngayon, no? Sa Pinas. Yun. Wala stick na. Anto. Mag-i-LS ako ngayon. Mag-silence. Kasi ano dito na eh, late. Tina-try ko lang. Wala stick na? Kumusta na kayo dyan? Anong ginagawa ninyo? What time now here is in New Jersey is around ano na kami dito, mga 1:13 in the morning. Hi, Aina. Vlogs. Aina Vlogs. Kamusta po kayo? Thank you. I just try. This is testingan ko lang itong live. I don't have like plan to to do live stream. Excuse me. Testing lang kung kasi late na dito eh. Mamaya na lang ako mag-silent live stream. Hindi na kayo makano dyan. Ano kasi dito, Labor Day dito sa US. Walang trabaho bukas. Kaya, ano, late na tulog. Mark Jod, kamusta dyan sa Cebu? Antok ng mga anak ko. Mega shout out lahat, mga kapatid. Kamusta po kayo? May mga anak ko. Ayun na maingay.
Welcome to Godible, a daily reading of holy texts known in the Unificationist community as Hinduism. Today we are reading from the Chunsangyang. Chunsangyang, Book 7, Chapter 4, Section 2, Paragraph 2. Spiritual phenomena and our attitude toward them. In the early days of Christianity, all manner of wonders took place, including speaking in tongues, carrying out works of the divine Spirit, and uttering prophecies. Because there were so many works of the divine Spirit in the early church, ignorant people who did not understand the content and who encountered spiritual works here and there became confused. To overcome that confusion, they said, "The words of the Bible are best. In the Bible, we read that in the last days I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh." Joel 2:28. This foretells that in the final days of Christian history, the phenomena of the early church will reappear in the world. Many groups will arise and will be accused from all quarters of being insane or heretical. The Unification Church is one such group. When those who have received an outpouring of the Spirit do not know the reason for it, heaven enlightens them. When they open their eyes, they see the spirit world, and when they act, they behave like the people in the spirit world. Their eyes, hearts, and actions may be completely out of the ordinary. They may look like lunatics. Long ago, did Jesus appear to be a normal person? In the eyes of many people of the time, he must have seemed like a fool or a dullard. In the future, such spiritual phenomena will sweep through us, sweep through societies, and sweep through religious bodies. Therefore, around the world today, the number of patients suffering from incomprehensible mental illnesses and diseases of the nervous system is increasing. A world of fear, a world of anxiety and fretfulness is fast approaching. This is because Jesus, the Son of God, lived his whole life engaged with the will, with fretfulness, anxiety, and an agitated heart. This is why similar phenomena will sweep the world. When that happens, people will not be able to find their direction, try as they may, and events will come to pass in which what is true seems false, and what is false seems true. An era is coming in which what is false will gain power, and what is true will lose power. An era in which what is false prospers, and what is true loses its voice. We need to pass through such a period. The more the last days advance, while some people are seized with dread, others will be seized with joy. Such developments will inevitably emerge. While there are some people who are extremely evil, there will be others who are extremely good. Something that is extremely evil cannot invade an extremely good person, and something that is extremely good cannot have anything to do with an extremely evil person. Even God will not be able to hold on to this society. A time will come when even a spiritual person, even a person who has received the grace of heaven, will be unable to unite this world, try though he might. When that time comes, the people living in the extremely evil world, the people who have failed to form a connection with heaven, will surely find themselves subject to judgment. A time will come when a state like this will unfold in your heart. The mind desires to go this way, but the body desires to go that way. Those who struggle due to their failure to set the conditions to be able to unite their body and mind are surely bound for hell. God carries out his providence centered on a specific religious denomination. At the time of Jesus, he developed his providence internally in advance, without anyone knowing, centered on the families of Joseph and Zechariah. In the very same way, right after the liberation of Korea, heaven prepared the content of this providence unknown to anyone. Thus, there had to be a group that could fulfill the mission of the archangel. What was lost spiritually will have to be found substantially, and the time to do this was the time before the liberation. So in that period, one person who could carry out the mission of the archangel in the flesh had to come forth. This is why, from among the people who can communicate with the spirit world, some came forward claiming they were Peter or Paul, or asserting, "I am John the Baptist." The 12 disciples did not have faith in Jesus, so to atone for having failed to lay a foundation for him, their spirits had to come down to lay this foundation substantially on earth. Such work has been carried out until this day. What was Jesus' greatest sorrow? It is that he was unable to establish a substantial realm on earth with his disciples. The 12 disciples were unable to unite centered on Jesus. Joseph's family was also unable to become one centered on Jesus. Judaism was unable to unite, and the nation of Israel was unable to unite. Jesus tried to manage the situation based on the 12 disciples, but everything broke down. Jesus left behind the model spiritual standard, but because he could not establish the substantial standard, we need to reproduce the model of 12 disciples who established the base of spiritual victory and work with the Lord of the second advent on the earth. After the foundation has been laid, that is, once the disciples who did not believe in Jesus and expelled him can believe in him and work again, the work of the second advent can begin. That is why in the time before the liberation of Korea, among those who could communicate with the spirit world, people claimed to be Peter, John, Paul, or Abraham, and people representing many of the prophets who have come and gone in the course of history appeared all at once in the spiritual groups in the horizontal world of Korea. Up to the present day, because evil spirits have come down to earth and carried out their work, there have been phenomena such as mental illness and the degradation of people's character. But this will not be the case henceforth. We will conquer our bodies, form a realm of resonance, and immediately enter the higher realm of spiritual experience. A realm of noble character will be formed. There are only two kinds of spiritual phenomena, those that are caused by God and those that are not. We can tell right away, that is, when we classify spiritual phenomena as good or evil, we have a standard that tells us what a good phenomenon should be like. We should not move forward unless we check the phenomena according to that standard. Every few hundred years or so, a period of great transition or extensive spiritual phenomena comes about. When this takes place, a nation either perishes or prospers. If evil spirits are mobilized, it perishes. If good spirits are mobilized, it prospers exceedingly. How could the fortunes of the world get mixed up with all this? It is not a simple thing. Then what is the purpose of these spiritual phenomena or of religion? The reason heaven stirs up spiritual phenomena in the course of the providence is in the end for the perfection of humankind. The works of an evil spirit and the works of a good spirit begin in the same way, but their results are different. In both cases, there is trembling, a disturbance, and the overturning of things. There seems to be no difference between the two. But what comes of these works in the end? When carried out by an evil spirit, rather than profiting the world or benefiting heaven and earth, the results of such works profit only the evildoer. When you do something, it should benefit not only you as an individual or a family where you are the center. If it is done egocentrically, whatever the good intentions, it will eventually come to naught. To some extent, the spiritual phenomena of the providence of God at the start may appear the same as the evil side, but God's providence sets its standard on the world level. A church with a purpose other than the liberation of God and the liberation of humanity cannot endure through the last days. That church will go its way based on greed and naturally collapse. Its leader will be taken away, and when that happens, that church will not connect to the environment of the age. This will be because the leader did not understand the situation he was placed in. Welcome to Godible, a daily reading of holy texts known in the Unificationist community as Hinduke. Today we are reading from the Chunsangyang. Chunsangyang, Book 7, Chapter 4, Section 1, Paragraph 10. At this time, billions of spirits are attacking the earth in order to occupy it. The phenomenon of mental illness is one aspect of this. Around the year 2000, you all may be able to communicate spiritually, be it with evil spirits or good spirits. Against the council not to engage in war, we may have no choice but to fight. Such a time may come. The mission of the unification principle is to defend us against this eventuality. From a high radio antenna comes a ringing sound. This is like the phenomenon of mental illness. The most fearful thing is if only evil spirits are mobilized and invade the earth. In that situation, the question is how things will turn out. No matter how many people there are on earth, they will end up being attacked by evil spirits. This is why God has been preparing for this. Centered on the good spirits, he is expanding his foundation in the spirit world continuously. The returning resurrection of spirits. If you fail to equip yourself fully during your time on earth, and you end up going to the spirit world with Satan claiming dominion over your mind, how will you be able to manifest the works of God? It will be extremely difficult. If you fail to fulfill your responsibility on earth, you will have to set up your descendants in your place. You will have to set them up in a position like that of a Messiah who can save you. You will have to help them and cooperate with them, taking their circumstances into consideration. You will have no choice but to cooperate with them, so that through them you can fulfill the responsibility you failed to carry out while you were alive. This is the phenomenon of returning resurrection. Originally, human beings should not have been under Satan's rule. They should have lived in the realm of God's direct dominion. As a result of the fall, however, they came to live in the fallen realm. In order to escape from that realm, they have to pay indemnity as individuals and as families. Without indemnity, they cannot escape. Therefore, spirits unfailingly come forth through the phenomenon of returning to earth in every historical age. Some people interpret this as transmigration or reincarnation. This spiritual phenomenon applies to you as well. If you practiced your faith on the individual level only and died because you never had a family, you would have to go through the level of the family and eventually the levels of the tribe, people, nation, and world. You have no idea how many billions of years that would take. The time needed would be nothing short of infinite. We know very well that through his death, Jesus substantially testified about his entire hope to all of heaven and earth. On the way to the cross, he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." Matthew 26:39. As he prayed, he surely realized, with intensity unrivaled by anyone, that the more the fear of death washed over his heart, the closer the day of hope drew near. In other words, he felt that after going beyond the death of his physical body, a new world of hope would unfold before him, and he yearned for that world. Because he hoped for resurrection in an eternally liberated body after his physical death, and he yearned for it, after he died, he was able to resurrect in glory. The central root, central trunk, and central bud are connected to me. As the main stream, the central root, central trunk, central branch, and central bud are connected in a consistent flow to the individual level and the family level. In short, they are alive. They have gone through the returning resurrection. All those who connect as branches to the Lord of the second coming can live. By doing this, everyone from Adam's family to the world level can stand in the position to be resurrected simultaneously. It is a work of engrafting and perfecting. In only a few years, what is multiplied for tens of thousands of years. So the kingdom of heaven of individuals and the kingdom of heaven of families on earth, and even the kingdom of heaven in heaven, can be completed at the same time. I could not do two things at once, so I had to carry them out separately. For that reason, centering on the spiritual standard, I established Hungjin as commander-in-chief of the spirit world. The Lord of the second advent came to earth, centered on God, and in the opposite direction, I sent Hungjin from earth, centered on me, in the position of the Lord of the second advent of the heavenly kingdom. I have united the divided spiritual and physical worlds. I had my son carry out the work of the realm of resurrection in the spirit world in place of his living father, with the authority of the blessing, based on the fact that the spirit world did not have a connection to the love of true parents. Since the ceremony of rebirth, the ceremony of resurrection, and the ceremony of eternal life can now be performed. And based on this supreme foundation having been laid on earth centered on the first Israel, the second Israel, which is the United States, and the third Israel, which is Korea, the boundary line dividing the spiritual and physical worlds has been abolished. Now there is nothing to worry about. We can just let things take their own course. What will happen is that spirits from the spirit world will return to earth. The failure to fulfill God's providential will to save the spirit world through 3 ages, the Old Testament age, the New Testament age, and the completed Testament age, will be completely reversed and thus will be realized automatically. Through the completion of the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the completed Testament ages, the providence automatically sets its direction and moves forward. The spirit world will set its direction centered on God and centered on the earth. The earth will not move ahead of it. The right of the eldest son will be restored based on the original standard. And God, our cosmic parent, and the Lord of the second advent on earth, that is, the parents of heaven and earth, will establish their lineage through a new ideology based on the blessing, and they will move forward horizontally. Thus, the gates to the kingdom of heaven on earth and in heaven will open automatically. There, everything will be overturned, and the entire spirit world will come down. We should wait eagerly for the day of resurrection. Heaven has to be resurrected through the earth. We think the base of resurrection is in heaven, but it is not. It is on earth. This earth is the center. The base of resurrection and the place of resolution are on this earth. If resurrection does not take place on this earth, the resurrection of heaven, the resurrection of humankind, the resurrection of all things, and the resurrection of people in hell will remain mere words. Therefore, a resurrected person must appear on earth first. In the spirit world, there are hell, the middle spirit world, paradise, and heaven. To this day, people who have shown loyalty to heaven have gone to paradise. Even Jesus is in paradise. In achieving the purpose of resurrection, the indirect destination is the spirit world, and the direct destination is the earth. The spirit world is the place that must be resurrected, but the earth is where resurrection must happen first. Therefore, only when we first can declare on earth, I have been resurrected, I have concluded the purpose of resurrection, can we go to the kingdom of heaven in heaven. What is the meaning of the phrase, opening of heaven and earth? What people would be eligible to participate in the first resurrection? It is those who have passed through the gates of the blessing. That is why even the elderly in their 80s need to become young again. That may sound strange, but even grandmothers and grandfathers need to marry their spouse again. This is because in order to establish the nation of the third Israel and become its citizens, we need to pass through the gates of the blessing. Section 2. Divine spiritual works and spiritual phenomena. The spirit world and the earthly world are not two separate worlds cut off from each other. Under the fundamental principle of existence, they have a mutual relationship of giving and receiving. That is, mutual exchange. We began our association originally as the Holy Spirit Association, with the aim of achieving unity through divine spiritual power. What is divine spirit? It does not refer to distributing transitory spiritual power or spiritual activity. It is the power of God's love, through which the spirit world and the human world can harmonize and resonate based on true love. The Unification Church movement, of course, moves the hearts of people through a lifestyle of true love, living for the sake of others and investing oneself for others, but also through gaining the spirit world's cooperation. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Godable.
Thank you, Sonico. Thank you, Aina. Thank you, Marchud, for dropping by. Kamusta po kayo? Late na dito. 1:38 na po dito ng umaga. Hi, MD. How are you? Thank you so much.
Welcome to Godable, a daily reading of holy texts known in the Unificationist community as Hinduke. Today we are reading from the Chunsangyang.
Walang trabaho kasi bukas.
Chunsangyang, Book
Hindi,
7,
walang trabaho bukas
Chapter
kasi
4.
Labor Day.
Returning Resurrection
Gising ka
and
pa.
Divine Spiritual Works. Section 1. The Last
basta pa.
Days and Returning Resurrection.
Try lang ko aning live, MD.
How do we characterize the times we
Salayan
are
lang na
living
po
in?
ba?
When we look around the world,
Salayan nga
we
na
find
ako.
many people suffering from mental illness.
Kamusta na,
This is
mga
because
bata?
the spirit world and the physical world are intersecting. When the two worlds intersect, it is not the good people who are aware of this first. Who knows this news the fastest? It is not the good people who learn of it first. Rather, it is the enemies who oppose them. This is because the enemies always immediately strive to intercept the news meant for the good side. In the same way, when the spirit world comes down to
Salamat
the
sa
earth, it is
tamsak.
not the good spirits who
Sisi.
come first, but the evil spirits. Phenomena of the last days. As a result of the fall in the Garden of Eden, Eve became an enemy because of the archangel, and Adam became an enemy because of Eve.
Mayroon
They
akong
became
mangga
enemies to each
hindi.
other. Now everyone is an enemy.
Pag
Therefore,
makapunta
even
ko
your
dyan sa inyo
children
sa
are your
Bukalo,
enemies.
dadala
You
kita
cannot
ng
trust
mangga.
them. When the last days come, even your mother and father will be your enemies. Your siblings will be your enemies. A time will come when nations become such enemies that their relations are rent all to pieces. When such a time comes, where will we find ethics and morality?
My daughter.
When the time
Say
comes
hi.
in which global trends are tossed about as if in a raging storm, and we can neither discern our direction nor distinguish between what is good and what is false, we should know it is the last days. Now is that very time. What characterizes the era of the last days of the world? When all people of the world place absolute importance on individualistic love, the last days have come. This statement derives from our understanding of fallen love. The global era that exalts individualistic love is the era of the last days.
Hi. Say hi.
It is an era in which people go their way, pursuing love fixed solely on themselves, while denying love for their nation, love for their own people, and love for their family. They stand not on the side of human ethics or morality, but rather follow the desires of the flesh. Your body and mind are in conflict. Husband and wife are in conflict, and parents and children are in conflict. Everything plunges into chaos in the last days. In the face of my teachings, people in the spirit world are falling into utter confusion as they try to cling to the religious views they have held until now. To be able to return to earth, spirits need to have actual accomplishments they can show to the Unification Church members and to their descendants. They cannot return to earth without actual accomplishments. I have walked the entire course of indemnity that makes returning to earth possible. I am the king of Abel's on behalf of God. In the original family of Adam, Cain killed Abel, and this act has been repeated throughout the ages of history until today. In this world of Satan's bloodline, God cannot intervene. Why suddenly, in the last days, are the saints and the elders in the spirit world completely reversing their positions? It is inevitable. The spirit world has to be shaken up all at once. This time, today, is when the will of God manifests upon the earth. On the earth today, both Cain and Abel exist. As is written in chapter 13 of the Gospel of Matthew, on this earth there are both wheat and chaff. And as the Gospel of John states in chapter 10, there is the good shepherd who enters by the gate, and at the same time there is the false shepherd who does not go through the gate, but climbs in by another way. We need to face the fact that if we do wrong, these very phenomena can occur in our church.
Thank you,
The Bible
Minda.
teaches that the Messiah will come
Thank you
in
for
the last
dropping
days.
by.
The term Messiah
Minda
refers to a person
TV.
who has to restore three things:
Thank you po sa inyo, Minda
eternal
TV.
truth,
San
eternal
po.
character, and the true love that true parents
Pastor
give to their
TV
children.
and Aina.
This is why Jesus
Thank
said
you,
he was the
MD.
bridegroom who came to find
Thank you
his
for
bride.
dropping by.
In the last
Pwede din
days,
kayo makadrop.
the Lord of the
So,
second advent must
thank you
walk
po
a
sa
course
pagbisita at
opposite to
sa
that of the fallen.
pagtamsak, Sisi.
The
Mga
Lord is the
kapatid.
subject being. Therefore, when he comes to the fallen world, he has to speak the truth. When people hear that truth, both their body and mind will be bound to him. When human beings fell, they wept. They shed tears of grief as they were dragged away by Satan. But in order to return to God, they must be drawn to the Lord with gladness. Such a movement of reversal must happen in the last days. Since human beings went over to the other side after being led by the words of Satan, all people in the fallen world can be brought back to this side, led by the words, the message of the Lord of the second coming. That is why his words have to surpass those of the archangel, and he has to stand in a position where God acknowledges him. On that foundation, he can lead all humankind with authority. We have been told that in the last days, we should anoint our heads with oil, go into a closed room, and pray. It is a time when we should not listen to what others say. It is a time when we should listen only to the words of the bridegroom. Not even my pastor or my companion in faith can support me when I reach the final summit. If I am bound for heaven and he is bound for hell, he will cling to me and pull me back. It is the same as if my beloved friend is drowning, and when I go in to save him, that friend clings to me and pulls me down. At such a time, I cannot feel pity for him. There is no leader who can save my life. Such a time is coming. In the districts, nations, religious organizations, and societies that experience such a time before others, chaos will ensue. People will be unable to trust each other. A pastor will not be able to trust an elder, nor the elder the pastor. A lay believer will not trust the church council. Sects will not trust one another, and associations and political parties will not trust each other. The citizens will not trust the president. The president will not trust the citizens. The people will not trust their country, and they will overturn it. Everything will be engulfed in a melee of mistrust. In a world where we cannot trust anyone, chaos will reign in all directions. In such a place, all we can do is trust ourselves and seek the position of faith that heaven can acknowledge. Now chaos from the spirit world will unfold on the earth. The chaotic spirit world will attack the earth. This is why nowadays many people are suffering from mental illness and have become half-crazed. The number of people who mutter to themselves, for example, will increase gradually. From the spirit world, billions of spirits will invade the earth. Why do they do so? It is because religion has been unable to fulfill its proper role. Religion failed to stand up as God wanted it to. It was supposed to stand vertically, its eyes on heaven, in relation to the people on the horizontal plane, but it has collapsed completely. This is why the spirit world is invading the earth. Don't we view an insane person as possessed by a ghost? Why do spirits enter people? It is in order to use them. Conscientious people, especially those who are literary or who are engaged in disciplines related to art, are more sensitive than ordinary people. They have taller antennae. Such people are affected by such influences first. And mental illness is a global phenomenon of the last days.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Goddable. Goddable is brought to you by the National Victory Fund and support from listeners like you. To donate, visit goddable.org. Thank you. Welcome to Goddable, a daily reading of holy texts known in the Unificationist community as Hinduke. Today we are reading from the Chansangyan.
Chansangyan, Book 6, Chapter 3, Section 3, Paragraph 26. If you eat with a heart of appreciation and love, the food that enters your mouth will say, I deeply appreciate being absorbed into your body, becoming your flesh and blood, and giving you energy to love God. When you eat beef, you must think, this beef has come to me as the fruit of love, after being raised from a calf with its mother's love and raised by its owner with love. You will never know illness if you consume the fruit of love while appreciating it in oneness with God's original love. All the foods we eat are fruits. We are eating the fruits of the creation, the original bodies containing the seeds of beauty, the microcosms of all living things of beauty. We need to be mindful of their value as we eat them, and that we are doing so in order to grow and become complete through this valuable love. If we eat with this attitude, there is no reason that we should fall ill. In fact, we will surely grow in good health. Section 4. Our attitude toward the creation. When we wake up and open our eyes, we see all of creation unfolding before us. From the creation, we indirectly and intuitively receive certain impressions, and by responding to them, we develop our senses. Even the smallest creatures are connected to us. Even though we ignore them, These seemingly insignificant creatures are connected to us and lead their lives every day according to the ideal of the heavenly principle. Why is this so? From the perspective of the purpose of existence, all creatures from the smallest to the greatest, that is, human beings, who are the lords of creation and rule over all things, everything lies within the realm of ideal love and can embrace God's ideal for this vast universe. Movement occurs as small things are absorbed by larger entities governing larger spheres, thus fulfilling the purpose of the universe. Small things are absorbed by bigger things, becoming the building blocks of their material form. This relationship leads to the realization of one purpose based on one great ideal. We cannot deny that this is the way history has been progressing, and the way the physical world has been following the principle of heaven toward the fulfillment of one purpose. The value of all things of creation and the destruction of the natural world. Throughout my life, I have thought, even if I am the only one, I should understand the sorrow of the precious things of creation made by God. We value national treasures housed in palaces, yet we do not cherish the precious things of creation made by God. Those with the heart to say, though everyone living on this earth may be ignorant, I will understand, can become a new person able to govern humankind in the future. This is not a concept, but a fact. Who values all things of creation more than they value the family treasure handed down through generations? Diamonds are considered to be the most valuable and precious stones in the world. People hold on to them and refuse to let them go. Who in this world values creation more than diamonds? Where can we find such people? God will say, I hear you, upon seeing those who understand in their hearts what he has created, and who weep when they hold the things of creation. Nature is an exhibit that God has given us as a magnificent gift. He prepared this gift for the birth of his beloved sons and daughters, who were to live in love for others. Every bird and plant was a decoration to bring beauty to the lives of his beloved sons and daughters. Even the pebbles along the road were created as decorations for the nation, since God knew that his sons and daughters would be the owners who would rule over the nation. It is the same with flowing water. God did not want things to be dry and monotonous, so he created the natural world fit for a prince of dreams and hope who would inherit this infinitely colorful and harmonious garden, this world of love. Hence, we learn from all things of creation. No matter how precious a work of art in a museum, can it have more value than the living work of art? Who has loved this earth, the museum of all things and the work of God, more than God has? Has anyone loved the earth more than they loved their national treasures? Can a gold crown from the Silla dynasty sitting in a museum compare with one dandelion growing alongside the road? If there were a king who understood God's heart and who took care of the creation with a heart that said, I feel sorry and ashamed because I cannot love you from the position of an original king whom God has loved, the tufts of grass would want to follow that king and be with him eternally. This is how people should live. You should have such a mind that when observing nature imbued with God's love, you say, can the precious items possessed by the kings of this world or the people of great fame compare with this? Can any artifact compare with this? Can a glamorous dress worn by a famous lady compare with this? Without that heart, we are committing sin before the natural world without even realizing it. Is there anyone who looks at a living creature and asks, what items produced by human hands could compare with this? No matter how great someone might be, could he or she ever be greater than God? A person who deeply cherished all creation, in which God totally invested his heart, would surely be a child of God. Such a person would not need to pray, for he or she would live with God. God guides people into such a position. Pollution is destroying nature. Since World War II, fish have been dying from water pollution and birds have been falling to the ground from air pollution. We have to protect the water and the air. Water, air, and sunlight are the most important. People today live without knowing the value of these things. Nowadays, pollution is a serious problem for humankind. Since World War II, because of pollution, the oceans are becoming dirty and fish are dying. The same is happening to the animals in the mountains and to the birds. Some countries are selfishly dumping their waste into international waters and the oceans are dying. Because of worsening pollution year after year, fish are deserting shallow waters and moving into deeper waters, where they are eaten by deep water fish. Then the deep water fish die after eating these smaller fish. This is why the food supply for fish is diminishing. This is a big problem. We need to purify the polluted ocean waters. We need to purify the water so that fish can live. Pollution is hastening the destruction of humankind. The worst kind of pollution is water pollution. Before people die, animals die first. The fish in the oceans are dying. The birds are dying. And the small insects are dying. Since World War II, because of air pollution, birds have been dying. And because of water pollution, fish have been dying. Now, because of pesticides, small and large animals are dying. In the future, if people are fighting, what will happen? We are producing more carbon dioxide than oxygen. The situation could worsen until humankind perishes. No matter how great you are, if you have no water and air is scarce, you will die. What use would the land be? No grass would grow. Therefore, we need to love the water and the land. We need to protect the fish and the animals. People have ravaged our God-given environment, causing the death of many animals. We have killed the best gift God has given to his sons and daughters. Therefore, I teach that we should become second creators, loving the gifts God has given us on his behalf. After living such a life of love, we can go to heaven. Recently, I heard that in Korea, people are killing magpies, thinking they are harmful. I don't think we should worry about that kind of thing. Instead, we should prepare 1 year's food supply for these magpies and raise them with kindness. Then let's see what happens. I used to prepare and give food to pigeons and other birds, and I found that the birds recognized my kindness. The magpies would greet me with a caw, caw, caw when they flew by. The pigeons would greet me with a coo, coo, coo. And the sparrows would say, chirp, chirp, chirp. If you become a true owner, birds will not pass you by without greeting you. Because I fed them every day, they expressed their thanks. People are dying because of pollution. We need to protect the animals and insects so they can survive. Who can take responsibility for this? God cannot take on this responsibility. We have to take measures to balance the food chain. On the national level, we must establish long-term legal measures to ensure a sustainable food supply. All the regions of the world should do the same.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Gottable. Gottable is brought to you by the National Victory Fund and support from listeners like you. To donate. Welcome to Gottable, a daily reading of holy texts known in the Unificationist community as Hinduke. Today we are reading from the Chansangyam.
Chansangyam, Book 5, Chapter 2, Section 3, Rebirth through Blessed Marriage. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were supposed to become one body with God, in both spirit and flesh. However, because Adam and Eve could not become one body with God and lost the position of true parents, people have to be born again through the body of the true parents, with God as the center. In the Bible, Jesus told Nicodemus, "Very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God without being born from above." Then Nicodemus asked, "How can anyone be born after having grown old? Can one enter a second time into the mother's womb and be born?" John 3:34. People must be born again. You have to deny your old self and be born again. So in order to be born again, you must deny your old self. If you do not deny yourself, you cannot prepare the motivation within yourself to be born again. Rebirth and change of lineage. Fallen people were unable to be born with a direct blood relationship with God. If we do not acknowledge this, make a new relationship with God, and return to our original position, we cannot advance to the position of receiving the blessing. In other words, because we were born in the fallen world of death, in order for us to return to a God-centered life, we have no choice but to be reborn. We have to be born again. To be reborn, you need to love Jesus more than anyone else. There is no way to connect to God unless your love, centered on God, is greater than the love established in the shadow of satanic love in the fallen realm, and surpasses the love in Satan's world. This is the path of suffering, the difficult path that religious people must follow. Christians long for Jesus every day and are waiting impatiently for him to come again. For 2,000 years, they cried out to heaven, "Jesus, our bridegroom, please come quickly." When they reach the point at which their bodies are ready to burst, Their hearts are being torn, their bones are melting, and they do not know if their spirit is inside their body or outside, the point at which only God or Jesus can be present. Then the Holy Spirit will enter them and bring them spiritual rebirth as spiritual babies. What is the ultimate purpose of the blessing? It is to realize a true family. This is the greatest purpose sought by fallen people. For this true family to form, there must first be a true person. That true person should be none other than a true man. This true man will seek out a true woman, and they will have their holy wedding with God as the center. Then, for the first time, a true family can emerge. Because of the fall, this did not come to pass, and so we must deny all families that have been created up until now. Following God's providential will, we must move beyond that fallen family standard. From a divine principle point of view, if fallen people cannot achieve this, they will not be able to return to the original world. It must be clearly understood that fallen people, no matter who they are, cannot stand before God if they do not fulfill this formula course. You do not connect to God's heart through theory. You can be connected only through the lineage. Did you inherit the lineage of God's heart? Up to this point, you have not understood. That is why, before you receive the blessing, there is a ceremony for the change of lineage. At that time, you must enter into a state of selflessness in which you are nothing. You must assume the position of someone without a body of his or her own and have the conviction that enables you to say, I am the starting point from which all my descendants will inherit the flesh and blood of true parents. God takes people living in the realm of Satan's false love and gives them rebirth through his greater love.
Tulog ka na.
People are born to parents of false love. They are born from ancestors of false love into a lineage of false love. They can become God's children and God's people only after being born again through parents of true love, ancestors of true love, and a lineage of true love. Human beings must be born again. This is the path of destiny for fallen humans. No matter what kind of difficulties we may face, we must go this course. God's work of salvation is his work of giving rebirth, thereby grafting his lineage into us. Therefore, I must completely deny all the things that are part of me from my past. In other words, my concept of possession, my tradition, my consciousness, all of these things. Things we already have inside us cannot be recognized by God as they are now. When we graft a tree, we cut everything but the root portion, then graft on the new shoot. Similarly, we have to first cancel everything, get rid of it all, and then be reborn. All people desire to attend true parents. Although 6,000 years ago, Adam and Eve should have been blessed in holy marriage, and humankind should have become God's descendants, the fall made people Satan's descendants. Therefore, on this earth, we must reestablish the true parents, who are on the side of heaven and who were lost 6,000 years ago. We must be reborn through connecting with true parents' love. Only then can we become citizens of the kingdom of heaven. The fall occurred through the wrongful marriage in the Garden of Eden. Now the time has come for true parents to overturn this by marrying people in the right way. Through cleaning up the terrible things that false parents have perpetrated, the true parents are eliminating hell and giving the blessing to the millions and billions of ancestors in the spirit world. They are recovering the proper true love, true life, and true lineage in order to actualize the true father-son relationship. As for an adopted son, he should receive engrafting by a true son. The wild olive tree must be cut off, and then the shoot of the true olive tree can be engrafted onto it. We have to take part in a movement to convert all wild olive trees into true olive trees. To be reborn, you need to inherit the lineage of true parents. That is why Jesus and the Holy Spirit yearn to consummate the marriage feast of the Lamb, and why the whole of humanity hopes for true parents. The Messiah separates you from Satan's lineage, but you must take the steps that permit Satan's lineage to be removed. In that position, you have to unite with the Messiah and be selfless in front of him. Unless we establish this standard, we cannot be saved. You have to pass through the place of life and death. For the evil lineage to be removed, we have to go through that adversity. We have to enter a state where life and death meet each other. We have to grope through that state of death on our path. Throughout history, no one could change the fallen lineage, but I have succeeded. That is why I have borne a tearful cross of the heart. Because I have that holy standard, you received the blessing without having any merit. You received a new lineage through the blessing. The victorious right to change lineage was achieved through my life of labor in the physical world, based on God's thousands of years of travail. You are the people who stood on that, using God and me as a stepping stone. To receive the blessing is to be cut off from the lineage of evil and to be newly grafted. When you are engrafted, your lineage is changed. Why do you need true parents? It is so you can put down your roots in the realm of heart. At this point, your root is different. Due to the fall, your trunk and branches are not what they should be. The Unification Church is putting down new roots starting from the true parents, and the trunk and branches are appearing and are then grafted. Branches of true parents are cut and grafted onto you so that the Unification Church will become the central mainstream of the universe. We must cut off everything that is of Satan's world.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Gottable. Gottable is
Salamat po, Kuya Frances. Anak sa kay Kuya Lito. Hindi pa natulog, mga son, matulog na ako. Tinatry ko lang eh.
Welcome to Gottable, a daily reading of holy texts known in the Unificationist community as Hindupe. Today we are reading from the Chansangyang.
Chansangyang, Book 4, Chapter 2, Section 3, Paragraph 20. What weapons is Satan using? He has an airborne weapon, smoking. He has a liquid weapon, alcohol. He has a liquid weapon, alcohol. He also has a solid weapon, drugs. With these weapons, he rots human beings in every way possible, even their spirits. He rots their bodies, their minds, and their spirits. He rots their lungs with drugs that are inhaled through the nostrils. This is why we must not take drugs,
Thank you for
drink liquor,
dropping
or smoke
by.
cigarettes. These are the weapons Satan uses to destroy human beings. These three things prevent the human spirit from communicating with
God
God,
bless po
and
sa
are the enemy's
inyo.
most effective weapons. Satan's next weapon is related to love, free sex. Free sex destroys the order of love. I must personally put all these things in good order. The heart of God as he views fallen human beings. When parents trust their beloved children, but are betrayed by them, the shock, distress, and misery they feel are beyond description. The more they loved and trusted their children, the greater the shock and pain. It is unspeakable misery when we are betrayed, rejected, and mistrusted by those to whom we have devoted our lives. You cannot understand that heartbreaking struggle and suffering unless you experience it yourself. It can never be fathomed merely by words. This is clear in the affairs of the world. How did God end up being so miserable? God is not a conceptual God.
Salamat sa
He is a real
lahat.
God. God and human beings are supposed to enjoy the supreme relationship. Once God experienced joy with human beings, he would embark on an endless journey of joy with us, a journey that will last for eternity. However, because of human beings, he cannot even begin that journey. Human beings fell. Not even 1,000 years of bitter sorrow can indemnify that. How mortified God must have been, foreseeing that their fall would become a death trap to myriads of human beings for eons to come. Human beings left such a hideous scar in God's heart. Considering this, we really have no right to utter even one word before God. Suppose an only son, from a family that has had only one son in each of 7 generations, died at an early
Hi,
age.
Jay.
It would leave that family without hope,
Kumusta?
especially if this son had been
Ate
born when his
Ria,
parents were
buhay-buhay sa
advanced in
Amerika.
age.
Hello.
If his parents were young, they could have had more
2
children.
o'clock na dito.
If the only son
Sa
of 7
umaga.
generations of only sons were to die,
Labor Day
not
kasi
only his
bukas
parents,
eh.
but also all of his ancestors would be anxious about how their
Hotdogin na lang
lineage could
tayo
continue
dito.
beyond the 7th
Godibol.
generation. Ancestors want to receive all manner of worldly blessings through their descendants. So when children die before their parents do,
Tinatry ko lang yung
the
ano
parents
ba,
feel like dying
yung
themselves.
live stream.
Adam was God's only begotten son for eternity, not merely the only son of 7 generations. He was supposed to establish an everlasting family and accomplish God's great work of creation. Can you imagine God's heart at the death of Adam? According to the principle of creation, when you're in the ideal realm of oneness and love, the eternal owner of that realm, who is the subject partner of love, occupies the
Pwede kayo
central position.
makadrop.
God should have been that
Gusto.
center, but instead,
Salamat
Satan
kayo
usurped
dito.
God's place and became the center. Therefore, heaven and earth
Buhay-buhay
became earth
Amerika.
and heaven. They were turned upside down. Nothing should have
Ate
interrupted the
Ria.
oneness between God and human beings that was to be
Hi,
based on God's
Jay.
true love, his ideal.
Magawa ka ng playlist sa video mo,
Human beings should
Jay.
have originated
Para
from that
ma-play
oneness with God
natin.
as children of his direct lineage. Yet it all went the wrong way, and the opposite situation came to pass. When Adam and Eve were about to eat the
Kumusta
fruit of
dyan
good
sa
and evil,
Bohol?
do you think God said, "This is just what I expected"?
Dodong
Go ahead.
Jay?
Certainly not. God felt his heart withering, and all his senses were drawn into that one place. Trembling and bleeding, he wanted to cry out, "You must not eat that fruit." Caught up in an indescribable sorrow and frustration, he was unable to think of anything else. That must have been God's experience. Do you think God simply watched Adam and Eve eat the fruit of good and evil? If he had had a sword, he would have wanted to cut out that part of history, even cut out the whole world. But his position did not allow him to do that. Even though God was overwhelmed with pain and sorrow, he could not do anything about it. How sad and miserable he must have been. His sorrow and misery were greater than that of
Yeah.
anyone who ever lived in history. At the moment Adam and Eve ate the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, God felt his heart explode. However, God still had to love them. If Adam and Eve had been able to fathom God's inner heart, they could not possibly have fallen. God loved his children as their parent, but they did not understand the depth of his parental heart. Of course, Adam and Eve fell.
Yeah. Ano ate? Ano yung sa ano ko sa phone yung ano, yung sa Godibol? Yeah. Hindi yun sa TV. Yung sa Hondok ba sa ano natin, Daily Godibol. Hello, Jay. Mag-ano ka, magawa ka ng playlist, Jay. Ate Rhea, Kuya Lito, okay na ba yung, piniplay ko yung, sa Godibles? Sa ano lang yun sa phone ko, yung sa, galing sa natin sa national. Yung hinohondok ko ba, pina-reading ba? Hindi yun sa TV. Yung ito
But they
ba?
were still young, but their young age itself was not the
Ito
cause of the
ba
fall.
yung sa
Rather, they fell because they were lacking in heart. Had Adam and Eve been able to feel, God is living for me.
Okay
He
lang
is with
ito?
me. He can never, ever be separated from me. He is involved in everything related to me. In fact, he and I are one. They would not have committed the fall. Oh,
Okay lang yon? Hindi man yun sa TV. Okay. That's okay. I hope. Kasi yun na lang, pinaplay ko lang yung yung sa handok na din ako ngayon, at least may 1 hour. Saka hindi pa kayo natulog, ate Rhea? Boy sa Amerika? Kuya dito, anong oras sa po yan? Sa Malaysia? Hello Jay. Kumusta ng STM natin sa Bohol?
Adam and Eve fell because they could not achieve unity in heart with God. This dreadful problem occurred because their desire deviated from God's desire,
lang.
and their
Kasi
thinking
dito
was
po,
different from God's thinking. Furthermore, they fell because they did not understand the devastating consequences of their
2:14
actions.
na sa
They did not know from the
morning.
bottom of their hearts their actions would determine life and death. We are fallen descendants of the ones who betrayed God's heart.
Kita
Do you know
kami
what
ni
it
Ate
is that our
Lalin sa
ancestors betrayed?
Japan.
Do you
Nung
think they
nagbisita ako
simply
sa
ate
Japan,
something
Kuya
that God
Lito.
had forbid them to eat? the fruit of good and evil.
Sa Miyazaki pa yun sila
They
eh.
betrayed God's heart.
Tapos nag-move
They
na sa
betrayed his heart for the ideal of creation and his hope
sa
for the ideal
Tokyo,
of
di ba?
creation. That is the issue. Why
May
wouldn't God cut
ano
off
kasana
Satan from us
kami,
human beings at once?
travel
God is
ngayon
omnipotent.
papuntang Japan,
So why does
kaya
he
lang
not cut him off
dahil
straight away?
sa pandemic
It is because Satan is connected to our
na ano
lineage.
na
If God tried to remove Satan from our lineage all at once,
postpone.
he would have to exterminate the entire human race. Even Adam and Eve would be destroyed. Humankind would have to be struck and totally shattered. Why didn't God just destroy Adam and Eve and create new human ancestors? He could not, because of love. Love is the Alpha and the Omega. It runs from the beginning to eternity. It is the standard of the ideal. God, therefore, would not eliminate the human ancestors, who were still the object partners of his love. No parents in the world want their son or daughter to die, even if he or she were to be hanged for a crime. They would want to save their child if they could. Their hearts would prompt them even 100 or 1,000 times to seek out a
Thank you
way.
sa hard work, Jay.
This is especially true of mothers. If this is the heart of parents, even in the fallen world, why on earth would the omniscient and
Piniplay ko
omnipotent
yung
God
ano mo,
have to bring
video,
judgment in
Jay.
the last days? Why would God not forgive humankind?
Pero
How
mas
great
maganda
is
pag
God's
magawa
love?
ka ng
If
playlist.
Jesus forgives people 70 times 7 times, God forgives 70 times 7,000 times. That is God's heart. God is omnipotent and omniscient. Therefore, he has the authority to judge the world
Patuloy
and even
lang ang
Satan.
pakikipagbakan
Yet he has
po
not
sa
exercised his
laban
power to
for the
judge to this day.
providential
On
restoration.
the contrary, he toils
Tita.
alone,
Oh,
unable to
thank you
claim
for
the
your hard
environment that is
work.
rightfully his. He
Your
suffers
hard
and laments
work.
under the accusations of Satan, who stole his entire foundation and robbed him of his
Salamat
foothold
po,
in this world. When we
Jay.
think of this, we are at a loss for words. Have you ever wept in sympathy for God's predicament? It all comes down to this. How many tears have you wept for God? Have you ever struggled to seek out the path on which you could toil and suffer on his behalf, even though your limbs might be torn off? Likely you have not. You who seek to become God's children should shed tears for a public purpose. When you meet God, you should be able to comfort him. Endless tears should flow down your face as you say, Father.
So ano, salamat po sa sa pagsilip sa bahay ko. Thank you for dropping by. God bless you sa lahat sa inyo. To 30, mag-ano din ako. Kasi naantok-antok na. Ay, Dodong, yan si Kuya Lito, Dong. Jay. Marami yang siya, mga kaibigan sa YT. I-subscribe mo siya. Yan ang pinakamagandang boses natin sa balat ng lupa. Sa kapatid. OMSA's vlog, thank you. And also, Blessed to Run. Salamat po sa inyo. Hanggang ano lang ako dito, 2:30, 10 minutes more. Kasi matulog na. Ipangamusta ako dyan sa ano, sa sa Bohol, Jace. Malapit na tayong matapos. So ano bang kwentuhan natin ngayon? Kwentong kasandali lang. So salamat sa inyo, sa inyong lahat. Sa mga tamsak ninyo dyan, sa mga tusok, sa mga messages ninyo, salamat po sa inyo. Salamat sa pag-congrats sa first na live stream. Yeah. Betong mga salamat kay MD Family Vlogs. Thank you sa pagtamsak. Sa Islamabad Vlogs. Salamat si Dodong J. Sa Teria Boy Boy sa Amerika. Salamat. Si Kuya Lito Juliano. Salamat sa mga patamsak ninyo dyan. Si Motovlog, our friends taga Cebu. Salamat sa inyo. Itong mga Bisaya natin diha. Kamusta mo diha sa Cebu dong? Si Jay, salamat po diha sa Bohol Gadget. Jed. Gadget. Salamat sa inyo ha. Kita-kita lang tayo sa sunod. Tinatry ko lang ito eh. Yung LS. Yan. Mga almost to 30. Chupi, come on. Itong my best friend. My best friend dog. Come here. Sika, mag-wait ka nga. Wala na. Sabi. Hi. I'm sleepy na. Thank you sa patamsak. Thank you sa lahat nag-share. Thank you sa papunta niyo dito. Oh, Dudong, nakinig ka pala sa ano din, sa Kudibon. Yeah, maganda yan. You met my friends. Our baby sleepy na oh. Sleepy na mo dog. Say hi, Shupi. My name is Yujong. See, my name is Yujong. I'm Yujong Jupiter. Oh, that's good. Mas good. My new vlog po ako, tita. Abangan mo po. Haskit siya, no? Sige, maganda yan. Ano? Anong tawag doon? Joke. Say hi to, to Kuya Jay. Kuya Lito. Teriya. Ah, 2:30 na po pala. Sige, salamat po sa inyong lahat. Mag-ano muna ako kasi malapit ng 3 o'clock. Magkakaibag na naman tayo. Kulang. Tutulog. Buti nga lang kasi Labor Day bukas. Lang trabaho. Kaya, walang trabaho dito. Mag-ano na din ako. Mag-sign off. So, salamat po sa inyong lahat. Sa lahat na patamsak. Sa mga tusok. Sa share. So, sa pakpo, so anong tawag doon, sa congrats ninyo. So, thank you sa lahat. Diyan sa Pilipinas, salamat. I think sa Pilipinas, ang oras ninyo dyan, mga 2 o'clock, right? Jay? In the afternoon, like almost 3 o'clock. Ganun. So, 2:32 na. Salamat po sa inyo. Kita-kita tayo sa sunod. Salamat sa pag-join sa LS ko. Ano ito testing lang. Ito si Kuya Lito. Magaling magkanta, magaling mag-guitar. Ha? Kung magaling din ako kantahan ko kayo. Chope, you wanna sing? Ha? Good night na sa kanila lahat. Chope. Chope. Salamat sa lahat po sa inyo. So, abangan ko yung bagong vlog mo, Jay. Parang tatawa tayo. It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart. Kantahan ko na lang kayo before mag-in. Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try as I may, I could never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. A touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. Kanta ko before tapusin yung ALS ko. Kantang-kanta na ang boses wala dito, wala doon. Ha? The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. At touch of your hands says you'll catch me. Ano ba sunod doon? If ever I fall. Ano ba sunod? A touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. Anong sunod doon? Nakalimutan. Now you see at best when you see nothing at all. Iro ko, napaka parang baby ba? Nakanta si Mami. Pinyusan natin aton. All day long I can hear people talking out loud. But when you hold me near, you run out the crowd. Oh. Old Mr. Webster could never... Napaka... Itong iro. Aso ito. Pang-good. Yeah. Wala itong boses natin dong. Pangpatulog na gito ng bata. Pangpatulog. Ay. All day long I can hear people talking out loud. Wala nang aso ko. Nagtahol na. But when you hold me near, you don't have to cry. Wala na. Old Mr. Webster could never define what's being said between your heart and mine. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. A touch of your hand, that's me. Ay, nako. Yun lang ang kinakanta ko. Parang pang good vibes before Alice. Alice sa sa Airy. Before Alice sa Airy, anyway. So, salamat po sa patamsak sa lahat. Matutulog na kasi malapit ng mag 3 o'clock ng umaga dito. So, salamat po sa inyo sa pagbisita, sa pag-share, sa taos puso kong pasasalamat sa inyo. And I hope na magkaroon pang another LS. So, mahirap kasi pag mag-LS may mga naka-schedule na mga kapatid natin sa YT. So, kaya ganitong oras kasi dito mo lang So, salamat po and then enjoy kayo lahat. Saka stay safe. Ingatan yung health niyo. So, at least mayroon akong 1 hour and 43 seconds. So, salamat po sa lahat. Good morning na talaga. Yeah, good morning, JT. Dito, good morning talaga dito na. Ito, si hi. Yung anak ko. Okay, so thank you guys. Mga kapatid. Salamat sa inyo. Salamat sa hard work. Ate, come on ate. Okay. So, iin ko yung ano ko ha, yung stream. Bye. Salamat sa lahat.